WannaCry, NotPetya, and Bad Rabbit have demonstrated the awesome power of ransomware. For Tech Republic and ZDNet, I'm Dan Patterson with ZDNet's Danny Palmer. Danny, you recently wrote about 4 ways ransomware is about to get even worse. We know that ransomware can be used for a number of different purposes, including cyber attacks. How can ransomware be used as a diversion?
We sort of saw ransomware used as a diversion just recently in the Bad Rabbit attacks. What looked to be very much a ransomware package to begin with has been speculated as being some sort of system wiper. The problem is there that when the ransom note comes up on the screen, that's the immediate thing that the security teams look at as the immediate problem. Oh no, our systems are covered in ransomware, we need to get rid of this. What is some researchers are saying, more so now recently, is that these styles of attacks are used as a distraction. If all the focus is on the ransomware note on screen, or they think they've got their systems encrypted that way, the attackers can then deploy stuff in the background to wipe their tracks in pretty much. They can wipe that anything has actually happened in terms of additional malware on the screen on the system, which means you could get Trojans, any form of malware, things like that behind the scenes causing attacks, which is obviously the big deal for the attackers in these cases, because the ransomware, they can maybe make a few bucks off the top of it, but the real money or information goal in terms of what the attack is for is the data, which if they can distract you away from knowing it's gone is a big thing for them. We saw this actually, a campaign came to light this week called Oni in Japan, or known by some as Night of the Devil, where it was a 6 to 9 months long espionage campaign, which then when it left systems, ransomware was displayed on the screen. But again, those researching this attack seem to suggest that was a distraction, that was a wiper, in order to take the focus away from what actually happened, which was the theft of data from corporations in Japan.
Ransomware can also be used as blackmail, correct?
Yes, that comes into connection with the data being stolen. Having the data stolen would be bad enough, because obviously it's going to make your company look bad, and you could have secrets out there being sold on underground forums and like credentials, details, that sort of thing, just information you don't want out there. What could also potentially happen, some have suggested, is that the attackers they might not just sell this directly on the dark web. They could just come back to you and say, hey, look, we have this information about your company, or this secret information, or this data. Pay up, otherwise we'll release it. Which gives the organization something of a dilemma, really, because obviously they don't want to pay attackers ransoms, and governments and authorities around the world generally say that's not a good thing to do. But if they're threatened with the idea that if they don't pay, all this information will be available online for any other hacker or cyber criminal to use on dark web forums, it could give them a real kick up the backside into taking action. Although in all these cases, there's no reason why they should necessarily trust those blackmailing them, because obviously those blackmailing them are not doing it out of a public service, they're doing it to line their own pockets.
And this can have a particularly devastating effect on the enterprise, correct?
Yes. Obviously, any enterprise would be massively affected if they were blackmailed with ransomware or any sort of thing, data theft. But something it's been speculated might become more common in future is ransomware getting onto the absolutely critical systems of an enterprise. And currently, it's bad enough when your networks are down, preventing you from logging into systems and doing general work, that sort of thing. But it's been proposed that the next step could be ransomware getting onto things like servers, your data centers, things like that. Because if that really is, that's where enterprises are fundamentally run behind the scenes. And if that information is not available to an organization, it's crippling. It will bring it down in a matter of days, maybe hours. So there's the potential that criminals know that these systems are so important that the organizations affected will go ahead and pay. And in this case, it's not going to be a ransom of a few $1,000s. They could easily try and extort millions from those infected in this way, because if they don't pay up, their business could be dead.
And what about new network attacks?
We've seen some of this year with the likes of Petya, WannaCry, and Bad Rabbit. The way that ransomware authors are using self-propagating tools to help spread around the network. So once it's in one system, it can spread itself around, as we saw with WannaCry, the use of the Eternal Blue bug, with Bad Rabbit, and Petya, the use of Bad Rabbit. Essentially means they only need to infect one system on the network to almost get around the whole thing. The worrying thing there is potentially for organizations is, we know about Eternal Blue and Eternal Romance. They were leaked by the Shadow Brokers hacking group earlier this year. We don't know what other ex-NSA or NSA developed, allegedly, codes and exploits are out there. More could arrive, and they could do the same thing, push things around the network, and help attackers get around more. There's also ways in which they can use legitimate software tools in order to do this. It's just that they seem to come and go in terms of what they use and what they don't use at a single time. The things that there's malwares that are being pushed around using things like Microsoft Office exploits, or things even within the Windows system, which allow files to propagate, and they can get around more quickly that way. And these are perfectly legal means of actually things which are built inside the software in order to help things on the network, but they can easily be exploited. And as attackers find ways of doing that, it's likely that they're going to want to use them.
Danny Palmer is a senior reporter for ZDNet. You can read his entire story called The Nasty Future of Ransomware: 4 Ways the Nightmare is About to Get Even Worse, by visiting ZDNet.com. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe to the ZDNet Cybersecurity newsletter.